welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb.
And I'm Damon Jacobs, author of Absolutely Shoulдлess, and we are here today with Tony Calega, former editor of Soap Opera Weekly.
Hello, you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here, Tony. It's so excited to have you here talking with us today.
It's very exciting.
So tell us, you worked at Soap Opera Weekly between when and when?
Started in about the end of 94, early 95. I came in, kind of a funny story, I came in as the fill-in for Mimi Torchin, who was the editor-in-chief, as her assistant. So her assistant was on maternity leave. I came in for a few months, covered the maternity leave. She knew that I did a little bit of editorial. So then after I left, I was called back in, and they offered me a writing position. Editorial position on the staff. So I did that. Basically, wrote a lot of the recaps, did a lot of the kind of smallish stuff, and then they started giving me bigger features, and I started covering shows like Days of Our Lives. I covered Guiding Light in New York, and I also covered Sunset Beach. I launched the fashion and style section that you currently see on the current Soap Opera Weekly. And the highlight, though, of my career there was I got to write for the Dress for Success column.
Tell us about that. How did that come about?
Well, I always dreamed of writing that column. It's so weird. I said to friends of mine who can back me up on this that one day I'm going to write that column, and I did. My mentor and coworker, Freeman Gunter, he had wrote the column previous to me. He left, so they asked me to fill in. So basically, it was amazing. I mean, I got to basically just look at pictures all day and talk about what people were wearing and whether it looked crappy or whether it looked amazing. So I had my favorites, you know.
Who were some of your favorites? Like, who could pull it off no matter what?
Okay, Deidrick Hall was always a favorite, of course. But, you know, there was like Cassandra Creech, and I know that my former coworker Jonathan Reiner will agree with this. She was like in every week, to the point where Cassandra Creech, she was on As the World Turns.
She kept saying my baby, over and over every day.
She was involved with Scott DeFreitas' character. God, who did she play?
Denise. They had a baby named Hope, and it got
Denise. Okay, I remember Denise. I just didn't remember the actress' name. Okay, I remember her. She's gorgeous.
She was gorgeous. And she always looked amazing. And I just was like, you know, I just kind of idolized her in a very kind of maybe slightly stalkerish way, but she was kind of it was amazing. I got to kind of go to the Emmys and just see what everybody was wearing. That was like so much fun. Got me in some trouble because I wasn't always nice, but
well, I was gonna say, did you ever offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings by being honest?
I would be honest in a way that was nice, but also not so nice in the same sentence sometimes. So you were able to kind of balance it out. Like, she looks great, but those shoes are hideous. You know, it's like...
Well, that's kind of what we do with our criticism. We try to be constructive.
Exactly.
Like, we like this, but this really stinks. But
exactly.
we try to butter them up a little bit.
So that was... I really enjoyed that. That was really great. And then in 2001, after the Emmys in May, we did a post-wrap-up show. I did this with my... I worked with Stephanie Ackner, who her and I were really closely working on the style section. And so SoapNet had this show called Soap Center, and they had us do like this wrap-up of what people were wearing, kind of like a Joan and Melissa type thing. So we got to be really bitchy. And
did anyone ever come at you like, Tony, how could you say that about me?
Well, I remember that I kind of put Ingo Rademacher down for something. And I remember I did an interview with him for when he was on Titans. This is after he left GH to do Titans for that 3-month period. And he kind of mentioned it to me that I hadn't been so nice, but I still got a great interview out of him. So, you know,
what was the way? Would you remember like the worst outfit you had ever seen on somebody when you were doing this feature?
Oh God,
like just the biggest disaster.
Oh my God, there were so many. I really, I don't.
You blocked them out.
I blocked them out. I have to kind of look through some of the old ones, but There was some really bad traumatic experiences that I had to go.
I'm getting a little paranoid about how I'm looking.
I know, it's like, okay, is he...
No, it's totally... you guys are fine. You know, you guys are playing very safe. I don't see any sequins. I don't see any...
Well, that's...
You haven't looked under
my... Okay, anyways. So how did you get involved? Did you grow up watching soaps?
Yes.
Or what?
I mean, the first thing that I remember as a kid, like with my Italian grandmother, was that she would watch her stories. And it was like...
Which one?
Well, it would be ABC, of course. So I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have breakfast, and then when I was a little kid, and I would watch Ryan's Hope all the way through The Edge of Night.
Wow.
So, Edge of Night to me was like the epitome of soap, even though it was done on a shoestring. But, Luke and Laura, just, the early days of One Life to Live, All My Children, Greg and Jenny, all that stuff. That's so, like, early 80s stuff to me. That just reminds me, that was like my childhood. And kind of still, that's why, I think that's what started my interest in soaps, and then kind of launched into my career.
And how did you go from being a big soap fan to making this your career?
It was totally a fluke. A friend knew Mimi. A friend suggested that I apply for the job there. I did. I kind of went in. It was very much a fluke. It was kind of like, be careful what you wish for. I just kind of got my foot in the door there and ended up being there for almost 6 years. So, yeah. So it's kind of like doing something that you really love, and then kind of being there in the height of a lot of really big stories. It was really awesome.
Did that change your perception of the industry or the shows, or did you find out things behind it? Sometimes I think I know too much behind the scenes and it impacts what I'm seeing.
Well, I was able to kind of separate that, because I would go to the day set, and then I would come back to work, and I'd have the TV on my desk, and I would just be able to watch it like a fan. It was kind of weird. I was able to kind of I wasn't able to kind of make it into, oh wait, I know that set, that wall disappears like 5 feet from behind the actress. I didn't get to the point. I was always a fan. Like, that excitement about the shows kind of stayed with me. I did it behind the scenes for Sunset, and basically got to see every inner working of it. But as soon as I saw the show, that all disappeared, and I was just watching the show. I think that's kind of the beauty of it. I think I never got to the point where I was just like, oh God, I've seen it all.
It was still, you could still enjoy it as a fan. Yeah, still get engrossed with the story, despite.
I always felt like that little kid a little bit. Even at the very end of my career there, I just felt like that little kid covering these shows that I felt so, attached to, excited about.
Now, there were some really big changes on daytime, especially on NBC while you were there.
Yes.
Particularly, the end of Another World, the beginning of Passions. Did you cover that whole thing?
I did some coverage on Another World. I went to the set, I think, the last week that it was on.
What was that like? Oh my God.
It was devastating, well, for many reasons, but I think at that point, though, the crew and the actors kind of knew for a while what was going on, so it was just work for them. I didn't spend too much time on that. I was mostly on the West Coast. I covered Sunset Beach, which was like the show that was basically handed to me from Soap Weekly. So the entire run, I tried to, I covered that show as best as I could. The ratings were pretty abysmal. By today's standards, they were pretty good. But
you were living here?
I was living here, yeah. So
but you were traveling back and forth?
I traveled there. I went there a few times. I actually had a walk-on, and that was... I had a walk-on that was turned into a behind-the-scenes, which was really
Can we
fun.
see it on YouTube?
I don't think so. I've looked for it. You might be able to find it.
If we can find it, we'll splice it in right here.
yeah. I mean, it was a while back. I really enjoyed that show. I loved work. I did some really great interviews with Aaron Spelling. I really enjoyed kind of talking to him about stuff. He was really passionate about that show. He was really passionate about Melrose and 90210. I also did a little bit of work with Days, which was really cool. They were basically shot on the same set lot. I think stage 9 and stage 11 on the NBC lot in Burbank. So there was a lot of I got to go do some back and forth stuff, which was kind of cool. Really upset when Sunset was gone. Like, that was my baby. Then I moved on to Days and Passions, which...
Well, do you think Sunset Beach, like people always say with Santa Barbara, if it was just given a few more years, especially Texas, if it had been given longer, it would have gained an audience. Do you think Sunset Beach would have ever gained an audience, or?
I think Sunset was doomed from the beginning.
Why?
I just think that NBC just wanted to kind of doing Aaron Spelling a favor or something, and they just said, okay, we'll give it a few years, and then we're just going to okay, great, type of a thing. And I know also, too, it did get a little expensive, I think, and I think that there were some budget situations that were happening, and I just kind of feel like it was a show that really had a lot of big budgety stuff going on for it, and it just couldn't find its audience, number one, or its footing, really. I think that there was a lot of story stuff that was a little out there. Maybe Passions picked that ball up and ran with it even further, but I just feel like there was some really amazing actors on that show. I just feel like it was really inconsistent, and there's a lot of things that kind of went towards the demise, and I do feel that it just was not a priority for NBC.
Which is really interesting. I interviewed Claire Labine recently, and she had talked about leaving General Hospital to develop a show for NBC, which they turned down in favor of Sunset Beach.
Really?
So clearly they had something. There was some momentum behind Sunset Beach at some point.
I think it was Aaron Spelling. I think the excitement behind Aaron Spelling wanting to do a daytime show was huge for NBC. I mean, he was at the prime, that was the pinnacle of he had everything was. He was attached to Charmed. He was attached to Melrose. I mean, it was all about Aaron Spelling.
Yeah.
So I think once that hit, it was great. Then I think as time passed,
Seventh.
Yeah, Seventh Heaven, which was on the air forever and kept having final seasons,
right?
And another final season. So I think I don't know. I feel like it was a lot of politics. I feel like Aaron's interest in the show kind of waned after a while, and he just wasn't really that involved.
In 1999, when Another World and Sunset Beach both went off, it seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that one was going to go in June and one was going to go in December. And I always wanted Another World to stay longer because I thought they basically had a few weeks to wrap things up. And I thought if you gave them 6 months, maybe they would have found another home. Maybe there was talk about it going to ABC as like a 30-minute show, or I wanted them to give Another World more time to wrap things up versus the fake guerrilla ending that we got.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, too, all that years more history that Another World had, Sunset was only on for a few years. So Another World had so much history that
I didn't feel like those 6 months they were really giving it a fair shake. I didn't think there was any chance it was going to continue. Is that how it was at the time?
Yeah, I mean, they knew it was. I mean, Sunset was basically just done. It was done. I mean, the actors knew that there was really no saving it. There was talk for like a minute about bringing it somewhere else, but if you think about it, in the history of a lot of these shows, I think the only one that was actually wasn't Search for Tomorrow moved to another network.
It was moved from CBS to NBC.
Well, Edge of Night moved from CBS to ABC,
okay.
And it did well at first, but when people start playing with the time slots, then it's doomed.
Right.
Hello, Guiding Light.
They're all doing Fast and Loose now.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of NBC and Days of Our Lives in the set, I actually had the immense privilege and honor to go to the set a couple weeks ago for the Day of Days event. And I got to meet some of the cast, do some really, really great interviews, and I wanted to play one of them here. Joseph Mascolo has been playing Stefano Demera on and off for 28 years now. It's hard to believe. And I always really wondered, why is Stefano such a popular character? What is he tapping into in our own psyche that makes the fans want him to come back over and over and over again? And he answered that question, so we're going to play that interview right now.
I mean, Stefano is the villain to make him palatable. I mean, he's lived for over 20 years, so I guess it works.
And he's died over 20
You know what I mean? Well, he doesn't ever die, because that's too weird.
Quote unquote, yeah.
I mean, soap operas get stupid sometimes, but not that bad. He doesn't die. He disappears. And that's the reason why he has the code name The Phoenix. Because the woman who invented Stefano, Pat Falcon Smith, was the original wife. She's a brilliant woman. I came from the theater, so I wanted to do plays every chance I got. And then at that time, when I started the show, Burt Reynolds had a theater down in Florida. And so I went and did a play there every year. And so she came up with the idea that when I left or when I disappeared for any reason and I came back, I had the code name The Phoenix, because rising from the ashes always. And so that's how that came about. And so he can disappear and come back, because that's, in terms of the world, that's his code name.
Why do you think the fans have taken to Stefano as favorably as they have, given the things he does?
Yeah.
Why do people root for him despite all that?
The thing is, it's funny. Like the couple came up to me just before, and they said to me, "We don't care what you do, just keep doing it." And I feel that it's the fantasy of Stefano to have that kind of power, owning half the world and running and picking up a phone when Nicole is on a plane trying to go away and just say, "Bring the plane back," because I want her off that plane.
I wish I had Stefano on my side a few times on airplanes.
Okay, you know what I mean? When you have that kind of power, that's a fantasy. And also, to further it, the idea of being able to do something outrageous and getting away with it is really, everybody would love to be able to do that and just say whatever they wants to say to anybody, and not be bothered by it. Well, that's the fantasy of Stefano. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think psychologically that taps into a drive that we have to be able to do things and get away with things.
Sure.
And not have to pay the consequences.
Absolutely.
How are you similar? How do you relate to Stefano?
Well, I relate to him, first of all, as an actor. Yes. That's it. And I'm always working to find ways to keep him at least as interesting and alive as possible. I don't mean alive like your death. I mean alive as a character. And that, especially in daytime, is not easy because it's an awful lot of repetition. So trying to do things, I approach it every day as a different moment and going with that moment. And you have to believe in what he does. I truly believe what he does and why he does it. It isn't just something to do, but there's a reason for it. And that reason is what feeds me as an actor, trying to make that work. And if it works for me, then it usually works through the screen. I don't know.
How do you keep Stefano fresh and vital and alive spiritually after all these years?
Well, as I said, it's just there are certain things that you can draw within yourself, and use that. But then you use any damn thing that works, okay? And that's why I've really kind of insisted on the character doing everything from so-called bad to good. So you never know. My idea is never know what this guy's going to do tomorrow. Because you're going to wonder, what's his move? Oh, if it's Stefano, it's going to be that. Well, you do just the opposite, and then it becomes interesting. And I think that's what keeps people hooked. Yeah.
I like that. And in your mind, why does he do these things? Why does he do these things that he does?
First of all, one of the most important things in Stefano's life is his family. He wants to leave a legacy, certainly. He's got the money and the power to do it. So everything he does, as far as he's concerned, certainly, is for his family and to keep them together and prosperous whether he's there or not. So that's really his basic thing. So as far as he's concerned, that's a positive. He's not, he doesn't want to hurt anybody unless you get in his way. And especially with family, as I keep saying that. But that's an important thing in his life, his family. That's why this whole thing that's going on now is so devastating, because he's got one son left, essentially, and very important to him, and he's been in a deception. He didn't like the idea of the deception in the beginning, but when he saw what he thought would be the results, then he went along with it because he thought it was good for him. So essentially, I think his heart is in the right place, but sometimes he just goes about it the wrong way.
Well, and I think that's really the tragedy of Stefano.
Yeah.
It's a very Shakespearean almost. The more he cares about his children, the more they die. And he's had a lot of children pass away because of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's very tragic in a lot of ways.
No, and it is. What you hit it right on the head, and it's very Shakespearean tragedy, right? When you think of it that way. I have a few times, but yes, no, you're right.
And in his heart, he's had many loves.
Oh, yes.
I believe he loved Daphne for a long time.
Oh, yes, right.
He loved Marlena for a long time.
Oh, yes, right.
Is it possible that he could be having some real feelings for Kate?
I think so. I hope so. Because, first of all, she and I have had a long history. She essentially came into this world because of, I don't mean the birth, but I mean in terms of Salem, because of Stefano. He was sitting there one day and she walked in and he had this long blonde wig on and I said, oh, I could use that. Because she was attractive, and then got to know her. She was also intelligent, blah, 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 and then he helped her with the family. So we've had a long history. And I wasn't thinking of it that much, but the audience really loves the idea of these two characters being together right now. At least that's what they tell me. And I think it's a great thing. And I think, although he kind of manipulated her into this, because I think Stefano's been without a woman too long, and he had them all over the place before, and all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell they thought. Is she now? So I think that part of it is very important, to see that part of his life and his emotion. And I think things that we've done in the scripts, and some of the things I've inserted, his feeling for her are more positive than negative. I mean, he knows all the idiotic things she's done, and he's laughed them off. So they're both laughing these things off now, and I think that may draw them a little closer, which would be a good thing, I think.
I'm enjoying that as a fan, seeing the chemistry between those two.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly. I didn't like it at first, but I'm liking the energy between them.
Right. Well, that's what everybody's saying. So if we can keep that going on a certain level, it'll be fun. Because one thing I've always said to people on days, or shows, or anything, you have a couple, whatever reasons, they get together, they get married, and the romance goes right out. I mean, I'm always saying, why don't you show these people happy for a little bit before you start screwing up their lives totally? Show what happiness can be, and then when it gets screwed up, it's more tragic. You know what I mean? It's like, what am I thinking of an example? For instance, I mean, even like a character like Stefano is really a nice guy, has a great sense of humor. When he does something really bad, it becomes more bad because you didn't want him to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And I think that's the same thing with the couples on these shows. You know, usually they marry them and then they start having affairs with everything from the dog up to the whoever knows, whatever, you know.
Well, let me ask you, you have a long career in movies and on soaps. You're clearly a very smart man. When are you going to write your book? That's what I want to know. When are we going to see Joe Mascolo's story in print?
You know, you got me now. Because you're the third person, not here, outside of here, who's asked me that. And because I don't know what to say. I just don't. First of all, I'm a book nut, so I have such an admiration for good writing that I can't think of it. The only thing is, the interesting thing that I have found and people have caught on to is, like, I've had two completely separate lives because I was a concert musician. I had that whole life there playing with the Metropolitan Opera, doing all that stuff, and then boom, here in the theater. So I've had two lives, and I've worked with some of the greatest people in the world, and I don't ever think about it. And so when people come up with that comment, oh my goodness, you know, if only one person said he's but
well, if you're getting that feedback, I think that's
interesting.
That's the world telling you this might be the time for you to start to think about it.
I might have to
I will buy it. I will tell you that. I will buy it. And all of these interviews will be found in full on WeLoveSoaps.net. They're already there. You can find them there. If you have trouble finding them, you can find them under Days of Our Lives tags, or you can find them under Damon L. Jacobs tags, but they're all there. Contact me if you're having trouble finding them. So, Tony, back to your experiences.
Yes.
As you said, 1994 to 2001, you covered the shows. You must have had some very interesting stories or encounters with some of the actors or actresses. Well, come on. Now, just between us here. Just between us.
You know, there were those post-Emmy parties that we don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
That ended up in the wee hours in the morning. I have the publicists. just being able to go behind, on set to talk to a lot of these people and kind of see them at their worst and stuff like that. I mean, okay, there's one story that kind of sticks with me.
Okay.
It's kind of embarrassing in a way, but it's kind of funny. I forget where I was, but I ended up with Amy Eklund, and her and I just hit it off famously.
Amy Eklund from Guiding Light?
From Guiding Light. She was the deaf actress who played Abby, and she was just wild. She was wild. It was me and her. I feel like Nelson Branco was also involved. We were all this
very possibly.
Yeah, of course. He probably was the one that led me astray in this situation. And at some point, we ended up in the bathroom stall. I had to basically watch the door for her while she peed. So yeah, that made its way around the water cooler at work that Monday at Soap Weekly. But never.
Why?
Her the same. Well, because I basically. I basically saw Amy Eklund pee. Okay. So that's my story.
That's your claim to fame.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame. Sorry.
We bring on the best guest to the show with the best stories.
Yeah. Other than that, I that was my only real that sticks with me. I'm sorry that it can't be something more poignant.
Well, I'm sure when your book comes out, we'll get the full story.
Yeah, I gotta keep some stuff close to my heart. Just for under wraps.
I've been to soap events where things happen in bathroom stalls too, and I can't really say, but it seems to be a popular place at these.
Yeah, especially in LA.
Well, speaking of water sports, we talked about Melrose Place earlier, and we talked about Aaron Spelling's very successful run on shows in the 90s. Let's talk about a bit what's going on now with the new Melrose Place, because this is actually a very huge week that's coming up.
Yes, it is. Well, let me just say that I have not watched the show because I knew deep in my heart that Heather Locklear would be returning. I just knew, she'd have to return, basically. And, of course, she is, as we know. She's coming back to save the show for a second time.
Is it going to work, Tony?
I don't know. Things are different than they were back in the 90s. I think that it's definitely the fans of the show that watched it when we watched it are going to tune in. I'm just wondering. I just don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. I know that she signed on originally for one episode, which is now she's going to be on the entire season. Every episode.
Just like last time.
Exactly. She'll probably be given special guest star billing like she was.
For years and years.
7 years. She was
I think they're bringing Billy Campbell on, to play her love interest, which is interesting to me. I figured they'd make her into a cougar.
Wait, the actor or the character?
The
actor? The actor. Billy Campbell, not the character. Okay, got it.
When we last saw her, she had faked her death. She was married to Jack Wagner.
Yeah.
And they were on an island or something.
Well, rumor has it that Jack Wagner might make an appearance too, supposedly. I think I read that somewhere. They were talking about that. So, hey, she's back.
What's your prediction? Is this going to save the show? The show, the ratings are in the tube, just like the first time. Is this going to save the show?
I don't know. I really haven't watched the show that much. I've kind of, like I said, I've been a little kind of against it just because I was such a fan back in the 90s. So to do a reworking of it, I don't know. Did bringing Shannon Doherty back to 90210 boost the ratings for that show?
They did well.
Yeah.
They did healthy.
The first season of 90210, the thing that kept me watching is the actors from the original series.
Yeah.
And it struggled for a while creatively, and then they brought on the executive producer from Gossip Girl, one of those other CW shows. They changed the executive producer mid-season, and it started improving, and the tone of the show changed. And they've shifted away from some of those characters now. But that's what kept me going. And I think it doesn't seem like there's any producer or backstage changes. So if people aren't creatively liking Melrose Place, I don't know if an actress is going to change the whole thing.
Well, I know that they are having some problems with the direction of the show. That's why they got rid of Ashley Simpson and I think Colin Eggleston. Who dropped there.
Egglesfield.
Yeah, sorry. I always think of him as an Eggleston.
Erica's on abortion. That's just Colin.
Exactly, the abortion that lived. I think that they're trying to bring a different feel to the show, which is not going to... They say it's not going to happen until January. So whatever that look and feel is, they need to bring back more. I want to see... I would love to see Lexi, the character of Lexi, return. I'd love to see maybe Joe come back. I'd love to see The one episode that I did watch was the original episode, and I don't know if we saw Michael in bed with somebody. We never found out who Michael was married to.
Well, did we ever find out how Sydney was alive? I think that was a little detail. The fact that she was dead on the old show and alive on the new show.
It was mentioned in some sort of a funny little just anecdote in the beginning of the movie. But again, everybody, that's what we love about soaps. Returns from the dead. I mean, hey.
No offense to Ashley Simpson fans, but I think a lot of people view her in a negative light. And I think when they cast her, it made a lot of people not even want to sample the show. I mean, I'm not trying to put it all onto her, but I know for me, as soon as I was getting excited about it, when they cast Ashley Simpson, I was like, what are they doing?
Well, I'm usually an optimist. In this case, I'm a pessimist, because I love Heather Locklear, and I really love the first incarnation of Melrose Place. I don't really think it's going to save the show. And the reason I say that is because the first version of the show, before she came on, it was slow and it was a little boring, but it had a lot of heart. Yeah. And they took a lot of time to slowly develop these characters. So by the time Heather Locklear got there and shook everything up, you kind of cared what was going to happen to these people. With this version of Melrose Place, I feel like it's kind of cold. I feel like it's kind of icy. I don't feel like there's much heart into there.
Yeah,
and I don't think she's going to do a whole lot to add to it. It feels very kind of cold and sterile to me.
If they were able to bring God, this would be like my dream cast. But if like Courtney Thorne-Smith would return, and they could kind of there could be some sort of just a subplot where they were just going at it every week, and that was kind of that would keep me hooked.
Well, but Tony, I think it could be, but I think it has so much to do with the writing and the way the show is produced, and I think we're seeing this with General Hospital. And the new Lucky, or the old Lucky coming back. The new Lucky, a lot of people are so excited about Jonathan Jackson coming back and bringing back. Well, it's not that Jonathan Jackson's a great actor, but what really made his first run as Lucky so wonderful was the heart and the soul that was behind production, which was by Wendy Reach at the time. Reach, sorry. And Claire Levine wrote his first few years on the show, and there was so much that was invested in caring about the characters.
Sure.
If that's not there, to me, it's kind of doesn't even. We're seeing on screen is secondary. And I'm kind of getting that now with Jonathan Jackson as Lucky. Great to see him, but I'm not feeling anything more for this character or for the show that I did before.
Well, I agree. I think with Melrose, I think that not having Aaron Spelling, Chuck Pratt involved is going to be make a huge difference. I'm willing to give Heather Locklear's return a try. Again, I don't know if it's going to save the ratings, but it's just nice to be able to see her come back as that character that we loved.
Well, let's keep it in perspective though. With the CW, their biggest scripted hit is Vampire Diaries at 4.3 million viewers. Melrose Place, they're struggling to reach 2 million, but Gossip Girl's up smash at 2.3 million. So it's not like Heather Locklear has to bring millions of viewers. True. She could bring 500,000 and it would suddenly be a CW hit.
Right.
Exactly.
And how many viewers does Young and the Restless get?
Yeah, over 5 million.
Yeah, just again to point out, the daytime gets a lot more viewers. A lot of daytime shows get more
I have to see. You're going to see a spike tomorrow. Come tomorrow night, there's going to be a spike in the ratings. There has to be, because there's going to be people that are going to want to see Heather.
Well, speaking of spike in the ratings in General Hospital, what is your take on this whole James Franco hiring story preview that we've now seen? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that the whole setup with the Claudia's murder and supposedly his character kind of being the witness and the antagonist here, I think is really intriguing. He starts, I think, the 20th.
Yes, Friday the 20th. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be tuning in. I have a love-hate relationship with GH. I always have. The only time that I'm truly in is when Jeannie Francis is on the screen. That's when I'm there. But since she's not, it's hard for me to really just invest myself in it. I think I definitely want to tune in. I feel like it's going to be an exciting time for the show. I think the actors are really excited. I feel like it's just kind of an unheard of thing that they're doing. Big stars coming on to GH for whatever reason.
At the height of their career versus
when they're retired.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really interesting. I think that a lot of people are going to tune in just to see what it is. Supposedly, he's having a great time and he wants to come back at some point.
Do you think it's going to make a difference in the ratings?
I think it might make a difference initially. I think people are going to want to tune in. I have friends who don't watch the show that are going to watch the show because of him. Mm-hmm. They don't have any clue as what the history is on the show, but
well, then they'll be fine.
Exactly. With Guza writing it.
Sure. Won't make any difference.
I think it's totally, obviously, it's just kind of just to get people to just get excited. And I don't know why he chose General Hospital. I'm sure there's a story there. I'm curious to know what that is.
He's a Demi Moore fan.
Perhaps Blackie Parish fan. Maybe he's Blackie Parish.
It's a great opportunity for the show and the whole genre to get new people to sample it. Now, whether the show's going to take advantage of it is the big mystery, and I really hope they do. I hope they get some of these people to keep watching.
Well, I think that the plans to have him, have him involved with Jason's character and have him involved with the Sam McCall character, that's interesting. So I guess we'll see. And I do think that I haven't been a big fan of Claudia, and I think that the kind of the violent way that she died at the hands of Michael was pretty graphic and pretty. You kind of can't kind of turn that around. He killed her violently, and
he's proud of it.
Yeah, and he's kind of proud of it. And I think that everybody in town seems to know about the murder, but nobody's really, he's not being arrested for it. But I think that getting some mileage out of that, I enjoy that type of a plot device in soaps. When an actor leaves, sometimes it's just like kind of like a whimper. The fact that Claudia, Sarah Brown's character, will get a lot of longevity long past her leaving the show, I think is really a great thing. I enjoy stories like that. So we'll see how it plays out. I could be eating my words in 2 months, but
we'll have you back, and then
yes.
We'll eat your words.
Yeah, I'll just be sitting here like, oh god, it sucks. But
well, we're going to take a quick break, but I do want to show more of the montage of sort of the clips from the Days of Our Lives interviews that I did this past weekend. And again, the full clips are at welovesoaps.net, so take a look and then come back to the website.
I consider this a perk of the job. Meeting fans. I have yet to wield an award, so this is my award. Getting the credit from the fans and phone numbers from females and even some males, which is totally okay.
See, the truth comes out.
There really isn't. This is Los Angeles, and I'm a 2000 kind of guy.
Lauren, let me ask you.
Everything he said, no.
The women, do you get more phone numbers from women or men?
Like we said,
it's about 50-50 for her.
It's what I said.
50-50.
But it is. It's really fun. It's fun hearing the feedback, the reaction to what's going on. This is a way for us to really gauge, to a degree, how the fans are feeling about the show. And I think we got a really positive response today. People are very up about the show, which is a good thing. I mean, the ratings are up, and this show is really moving, and I think everyone's responding to that, and it's a fun day.
I have been watching the show my whole life. So I'm 38.
Really?
When I was in the womb. And I have to say that this year has been one of the better years in a very, very long time. I've really enjoyed the acting, the writing, the pacing. I think everything has been
very clever. Yeah.
However, I know that Kate has been a little.
I knew there was a
naughty this year, and I just wondered if that's been reflected to you by the fans at an event like this. Do people respond to you differently after you've had a year like this?
No, they love it.
Stepping forward and moving up. And I also didn't think I could go back home again. They're saying you can't go home again. But I tell you what, this has been so wonderful. I feel like this show has been therapy. I mean, I'm just having so much fun. And so those feelings dissipated within, minutes of when I arrived. So
there was a thing where Marlena was considered the serial killer of Salem. And we had Frances back on the show in the middle of a murder plot, and she came in and she was to answer the phone and say, Marlena is the serial killer. And Frances said, Marlena is the silly killer.
Came to town to just make amends. When I was hired, that's the way it was described. Brady is coming back to make amends with his family and friends. And now we see him after a year kind of getting a little teed off and ticked off and having relationship issues and drug propensities and all these things. So
I just hit the ground running. I mean, I didn't really expect any of this. And the whole, when, Chad finds out about the baby, it kind of just boom, just like blew up, and he's meeting all these new people and people he never knew existed. And, let alone the fact that he's got a child out there somewhere. And to what he knows. I mean, I think he feels like he's backed in a corner, and everyone's out to get him, and it's like he's fighting. He's fighting so hard, and and that's what he does best. I mean.
I used to stay and watch them work, and Ellen Wheeler gave me opportunity to stay behind and edit with the producers, and she let me do it. When knowing that the show could possibly be canceled, I mean, I've been writing for years with my friend and producing partner Kim Teresi, but when the show got canceled, and first the overwhelming support of Otalia fans, and it was worldwide. It was huge, and I was, and the way that they felt so free to tell me their story, it meant so much to me. It felt like I had a responsibility to do something. So it was sort of an opportunity for me to do my own thing creatively, but I also felt like I had all the support of these fans.
If you could go back a year and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think I did okay. I think I'm doing okay.
Can you imagine what Susan had to go through a couple of years ago when the character of Doug was killed off? They did not tell us ahead of time that all those characters were coming back.
It was
we didn't know that.
The destruction of our whole family.
It was,
and to say goodbye to Bill. We were on vacation in China, and we got a telephone call from Ken Corday at our hotel in China, in Xi'an, saying, well, we're putting you back on the show. And I knew that something had happened to Suzanne Rogers on the show. And I said, is it to kill us? And he said, well, yes.
So there are a lot of big events going on Daytime. It's very exciting. Right now on the website, we have my interview with Adam Mayfield from All My Children, which is running. And one of the things he talks about is the move to Los Angeles. In your soap career, did you ever see such a huge backstage change like this?
That was just so shocking, I think. It just really, I couldn't believe it. I remember that I followed the whole breaking of the story and the back and forth, and the fact that it was kind of released before the actors even knew about it. And then what is this? Is this some sort of, is this made up? Is it real? I was totally shocked. I can't imagine why ABC is doing this to save money. It just seems to me like you're spending more money to do something like this. It just seems, I don't know, to position the show with GH in some way and kind of strange to me.
And they're also moving One Life just to All My Children's studio, which supposedly has more space, but
not that much more space.
Yeah.
But I literally was rattled by that. And then the whole thing was who's going to stay, who's going to go, and.
Well, I think it's sad in 2009 that the biggest stories in All My Children were the backstage dramas, not the front. But what we're, I guess, hoping is that for their big 40th anniversary in January, they are there's so many stars that are coming to celebrate this event with them. We've talked, I know, Julia Barr was announced this week.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Supposedly it's somehow going to revolve around Haley coming back.
Right,
and her talk show. And I don't know, I hope these people aren't all guests on her talk show, but supposedly it's going to revolve around that somehow.
I was thinking this week when Adam had his sort of out-of-body coma experience, I was thinking, God, now that would have been a really interesting opportunity to bring back a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that
this is your life kind of thing.
I'm hoping that it would be awesome if they did a Run a Life event, like if somebody was a beloved character whose life was on the line, and Adam would make the most sense at this point, I think. Why not bring back Sky? I mean, where's Sky? But I'm really excited about...
Or Joe, because he's leaving the show. He's not moving to LA.
Yeah,
right.
It'd be a nice
or Palmer. I mean, give Palmer a send-off.
Well,
he's not going to be on it.
I mean, I'm really thrilled that Taylor Miller's coming back for... I don't know how they're going to bring her back for those few days, but she was my... Cliff and Nina. Really exciting. And also, too, that they are able to get Evil Arup to come back. They must have blackmailed Ava. No, I'm just kidding. Evil Arup is like one of my favorite daytime characters, so I'll be tuning in.
Except for her return, which was completely botched.
Which was botched.
Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, Eden Regal is not coming back.
She's coming back for the 40th, but just for like hey, I'm on the 40th, bye.
She's coming back for a day. She's not coming back for a contract.
But I have an interview with Taylor Miller coming out soon.
Oh,
she's actually coming to New York. She lives in Chicago, but she's coming to New York later this week to film her cameo and then going back home. But
that's great. Now, you mentioned Cliff and Nina, and you mentioned Luke and Laura and the stories that you grew up with. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any stories going on any of the shows that are impacting kids today the way those stories impacted some of us growing up at that time?
I have to say, I think that the most impactful stories, probably impact generations that are a little older than the kids of today. I think the people that are really watching the soaps are people that are our age, or maybe a little bit younger. We still get hooked on the Bo and Hope stuff that we know that the 19-year-olds don't really care about. I think that it's those diamonds.
I don't know if that's true. Actually, that's the theory. I don't. Okay. I disagree with that, but
I guess I haven't followed all the stuff so closely over the years. I just feel like these summer kids storylines where they're on the run and this and that, and they're not really impactful. It's the other storylines that have more legs, like the Reva's cancer storyline, storylines that they give to these actors and actresses who are maybe a little bit more established that you can.
For me, it's been the gay storylines the past few years, whether it was the beginning of Luke and Noah or Kyle and Fish this year, just because I can relate to them, and so many stories are unrelatable now, and at least those I can relate to, and they're kind of, some of them are it's similar to stories from the past, but it seems brand new because it's two guys together, and that, and then like you said, the older characters on Young and the Restless, some of the things they go through, just because I've watched them for 30 years and I really care about them, but a lot of the stuff that happens is either totally ridiculous and unrelatable, or I just don't. It's new characters I don't care about at all.
Exactly. I mean, you and the three of us would watch Gene Cooper or Jess Walton read the phone book. Just be glued to the screen.
And I would really watch Brenda Dixon read the phone book.
Yes. Oh, Brenda Dixon. Shout out to Brenda Dixon. From
jail.
Oh no, you did.
She's released.
She's out. She was at the Emmys. She looked gorgeous.
She's educated.
And she's a Facebook friend.
She got all her money.
She's a Facebook friend.
Yes. But you mentioned impact, and I agree that these stories had impact back then. I don't really know if stories now are being told with as much impact. And I wanted to segue that into talking about One Life to Live, because I feel like I'm watching two different shows.
Or three.
Or at least two. Yeah, we're seeing as many shows on One Life to Live as we're seeing Vicky's personalities.
Yeah, I was going to say they're all...
Yes, they're all over the place. The Fish story is so beautiful. It's so moving. We didn't really talk about the wedding episode, but just the way that came out and the way the story's unfolding is so touching, and I think it's great. At the same time, you've got this whole absurd return of Mitch Lawrence. I mean, what do you make of all this?
Really ill-conceived, I think. First of all, I think the returns of all the returns of Mitch Lawrence have been interesting, whatever. But I think this one, first of all, you're missing. Where's Andrea Evans? This would have been a perfect opportunity to have Andrea Evans come back to be part of that. The Mitch Lawrence Tina thing was really.
They can only botch so many returns each year. She was the 2008
which
version.
Was really that return. I just feel like to bring Mitch Lawrence back in for no other reason but to kill Jared and to just make lives miserable and to set him up. I don't know. They're going to set him up for what? To have him killed off again and have a big murder mystery set up. I feel like it's just a waste of. It's a slap in the face to viewers who have invested time in that show for so many years. The only thing, I have to say that I finally bought John Brotherton's Jared, his last few days on the show, which is too bad because I didn't really buy it at all. And then the last week of him on the show, I was going to say, I'm going to miss him, and then to have him kind of go and then have just that whole thing of him being shot, it just, we know Mitch Lawrence is a monster, but why bring him back just to bring him back?
It doesn't make sense, and I think
the whole Rex being Rex's father thing. I don't left field.
What do you make of that? After years of build-up and not knowing who his father is, it turns out to be Mitch.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, how could that... It just seems really... Okay, now it's going to make Rex even more tortured, and he'll be showing signs of being like his father a year from now, God forbid. But I don't know. I just feel like it was done... Thrown into all these really good storylines is this that just makes me want to keep hitting fast forward until I get to Blair and Taya.
What do you think about this whole Mitch Lawrence nonsense, Roger?
I just get the sense that this wasn't the original plan, and a lot of times on soaps it seems very obvious as a viewer, like when they've switched the plan. Like I feel like whenever they started talking about who's Rex's father, this was not on anybody's mind. And like this is like, they said we finally need to address it, and this was like the worst idea. I mean, the best idea of all the bad ideas they could come up with.
You know, there were so many other ideas. There's a lot of rumors out there about who Rex's father was going to turn out to be. I was sort of hoping a lot of it was going to be Charlie, that somehow it was going to turn out to be Charlie, and but no, that didn't happen. I happen to think this was the lazy way out.
I kind of had I had a feeling that it was going to be Mitch Lawrence, because Roscoe's name was being bandied around for a long time as returning. So I just figured that once you started seeing the hospital, I think it was hospital scenes with Roxy and that Crystal Hunt's character. I think there was you knew that it was Rex's father, but you just didn't know who it was. Right. I know that there's some stuff that changed with that storyline, but I always thought, you know what, it's going to end up being Mitch Lawrence. It just makes the most sense to me. It's going to be either a default or what. But
it was the easy way out. In my opinion, it was the lazy way out. Yeah. And I think this is why soaps now don't have the kind of impact that they did when we were growing up. Like, who's going to remember this story in 10 years? Who's going to remember the story in 2 years?
At least I'm kind of happy that Rex and Jessica never had sex at some point, because that would have been really gross.
Right. So, well, this isn't Guiding Light.
Yeah.
Or Bold and the Beautiful.
I mean, did they? I guess they must take that into consideration before they decided to. It's just, who hasn't Rex had sex with that we can make him a sibling to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
We got to wrap up in just a few minutes, Tony, but I want to say thank you so much for being here. It's so great to see you. What do you see happening as the future of the daytime genre? What's going to happen?
Well, based on what we're seeing with Guiding Light and with the rumors about As the World Turns and even Days, I just think that the soap world is going to just kind of just go calmly into the light at some point over the next few years, unfortunately. I think.
Oh, Tony!
Yeah, no, I think that just because the viewers are moving away from that, unfortunately, and they're moving into other areas, and I think unless we're able to take that medium and put it somewhere else, like on the internet, somehow, we'll always have the history of the shows, but I just feel like they're too expensive. Obviously, people are taking pay cuts. I don't know. I mean, I wish they would say leaving one life by itself in Manhattan seems a little strange.
Series, as you said. Next Monday, Martha Burns' series Gotham premieres. Venice
will premiere at some point.
Yeah.
We've heard different information, but it will appear at some point.
Some point soon. And
don't shoot the messenger.
And Tristan Rogers has a show in the works, and there's other web series that we cover as well. So it's kind of like, I think Damon described in our podcast, that in the early days of radio soaps, there was dozens of them.
Yeah, there were like 70 of them.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a rebirth of soaps, but I think that the soaps are moving away from television, and they're going to be moving onto the web or other areas. It's almost like going backwards to go forward.
And on that brilliant note, Tony, thank you so much. We hope to see you again on our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great.